kidding season is coming up on us real quick. I decided to go through all of my supplies, basically my med shelf, which is pretty much everything I need for the goats, plus the kidding kit. It's all kind of messed up together right now because I'm seeing what I have and what I needed to get. I, of course, went through all my records again, made sure all these are up to date and everything is in here properly. So, I have the registration paper, I have a health record, and I have a breeding record for each doe. This is a new year, so it's starting out blank. I have the previous kidding histories down here. If they're does that I purchased that have kidded on a farm before I got them, I put the kidding history down here, and then I'll start new for mine here. And then when we get these filled up, I'll just start another page. I have 2 papers for kidding history. This is my original one that I've been using, and I'm gonna see how this sheet works out this year. So all of them have this one. Again, just like registration paper for each one, kidding history, new kidding history, and health records. So we have one of those for pretty much everybody in here. And then of course I have my ADGA stuff, so my bill of sale, my service memos, and anything else that I need in this book. Way in the back here, I have all my forms for MDGA, ADGA, and the testing forms for the lab that I use. So onto the actual supplies. Of course, towels, number one thing. Can't have enough of them. I somehow misplaced my bag of these towels. I've managed to find a few, but I had a ton of these blue surgical rags. I had washed them fresh, put them away, and I don't know what happened to them. They have vanished. So I had to find some more towels. So I guess we can start back to front. This box back here is a kid box or disbudding box, whatever you want to call it. So it latches shut. You put the kid in there, and their head comes out this little hole right here. And you can handle their tattooing and disbudding in this box. And it just helps if you're doing it by yourself. It's my first year having to tattoo and disbud, so I figured I probably better have that just in case I have to do it by myself. I do have a friend I can ask, but odds are I'm gonna end up doing a couple by myself. We have our blood collection tubes as well. These are what I use to draw up blood samples and send them in for the biosecurity testing. I do that myself and send it into the lab, so I have the tubes for that and the needles for that. And then we also have gloves, which we use for pretty much everything around here. Drawing blood, kidding season. When you do tattooing, it's nice to have gloves so you don't get the ink all over you. And we also have regular Zuricox syringes. These I use for CD&T vaccines and any other meds that I need to give, whether it be injectable or oral meds. Pretty much always using those. These needles pair with those. I use 22 gauge that are 3/4 inch. They seem to work for everything that I need. These needles are different. These syringes have the needles with them, and they are a 1-inch needle. Those are the ones that I use to draw blood, since the 3/4 inch needles are a little too short for that. Then I've got my dewormers on hand. I like to give that to the girls after they kid. Since we will be disbudding this year, which is not fun. Now that I'm into the registered dairy goats more, you do kind of need to disbud them because a lot of people show them and they are not allowed to have their horns in most goat shows. So we will be disbudding this year. So after we disbud, I'm probably going to put Aloe Shield on there. I'm not really sure about that yet. I know a lot of people don't put anything on the horn buds afterwards, but I may do Aloe Shield. Of course, our CD&T is going to be given as well before we do the tattooing and the disbudding. This obviously covers tetanus and overeating disease. So before we do anything that breaks the skin, we will be giving the CD&T. So that works for disbudding and tattooing and banding. All of them will be given the CD&T for that, as we have a pain reliever for all of these things. So tattooing, disbudding, and banding, we will give some pain relief. This is generic Banamine. It's a pain reliever, anti-inflammatory, fever reducer. So this is what we are going to give when we do anything That's going to be not so fun for the babies. They will get pain relief. This is something you get through the vet, but it was not very expensive at my vet. I believe this bottle was like 16 something, so like $17. You use a tiny amount for them, so this is going to last quite a while. So cheap pain relief, but it'll work for them. So tying in with the disbudding and the Banamine, we have the tattooers that are going to be used to identify the goats. I have 2 clamps. The first one that I got does not have an ear release. This one does have the ear release, which is nice. I went ahead and got a second one. One ear is going to have your herd tattoo, which is going to be the same on every single goat. I have 2 different registries, so I will have to change it out between the breeds. But for the most part, I can use the same clamp without changing out the letters for my herd name on all the ADGA, and then I just switch it out for MDGA. And then the other ear is going to be your kid number and the year. So that one does get changed out for each kid except for the year letter. So having 2 just makes it a little bit easier. I did end up getting green roll-on ink. People prefer the paste that comes in a tube. We're going to try the roll-on and see how it does. It's supposed to be a little bit less messy, but some people say it's too liquid and it doesn't last as long as the paste, but we're going to test that out and see how it goes. I'm probably going to end up buying some of the paste just in case I need it. I don't know how many goats I can get through with this little bottle. Along the same line as that, we'll just keep going down the line. We have a bander. This is what we use to weather the males. So you have the applicator and the bands are in with it. Again, when we do banding, we will get pain relief. And then as we move over this way, we have biomycin. This is another version of LA200. It's still oxytetracycline. I do have another larger bottle of this on hand that I just bought, but there's still some left in this one. This one can be used if you run into shipping fever or pneumonia or pink eye and stuff like that. It's just a general antibiotic. Liquid chlorophyll. This we used for anemia. So if anyone is a little bit wormy, Famacha is used to check the eye color. So you pull down the lower eyelid and you check to see what color the eyelid is. It should be a nice red or bright pink. If you are a pale pink or white, the goat is anemic and generally is having some issues with parasites. If the goat's eyelid is white, you kind of need to get their anemia under control fairly quickly, so that's where this comes in handy. It will bring them back up to a nice color fairly quickly. I use this in addition to red cell, which is in a giant gallon jug, so I do not have that out here right now. But this is for anemia, and this one is a different version of Toltrazuril. So this is something to help with coccidia. You can give it as a prevention or as a treatment. I generally will treat as needed, or when the goats get picked up. So if they're traveling or going to a new farm, I will give them some of this as a preventative, just because travel stress can cause a bloom of parasites. So yeah, usually you see it under the name Toltrazuril. That is the drug name. Zuricox is just a different brand of that. And this one was a little bit cheaper than the actual Toltrazuril you find at like the horse pre-race website. This one's like half price, so we're gonna try that one out this year. Scooting over this way, we have some more of our supplements and stuff. So Probios, Jumpstart. This is great for kids that are a little iffy at birth, and also mamas if they get a little dumpy afterwards. This is really nice to get them up and going again. Selenium, of course, we give this to the moms before they kid, and we also will give it to any kids that seem a little weak. If their legs are buckling or anything like that, they will get some selenium. Vitamin B, also really good to have on hand, and the goats always can use vitamin B, so we always have some of this on hand. It's also an appetite booster, so if you have a goat that isn't feeling the greatest and is off feed, you can give them some of this and it will help them get their appetite back. We have Thermomycin in here too. This is an antibiotic eye ointment, so again, any injuries to the eye or anything like pink eye, you can put this in there and it'll help clear it up. so I always have some of this on hand. We've got some mastitis indicators. Since I do milk, I can test the goats occasionally just to make sure they don't have any undetected mastitis going on. We have the copper boluses over here. But the copper bolus we give like once a year to the goats that need it. Mine are on a nice loose mineral that has a high amount of copper in it, so we don't need to give copper boluses to everyone, but there are a few that get a little deficient, so we have those on hand. So something else that's kind of nice to have on hand, but isn't necessarily something you need, you can get by without it, is a bowling gun. So this is used with the little copper boluses. These are little pills that have copper rods in them. So these little capsules do have to be given orally, and most of the time you can get away with putting it in a treat like a marshmallow or a fig Newton or a handful of grain. But if they bite into one of these and they figure out that there is something in that snack that you gave them, they will spit it out and not want to take it, and then you have to wrestle the goat, and it can get a little messy and frustrating if they keep spitting all of the copper on the ground. So we're gonna try a bowling gun this year. Basically this little rod will come out. You put the little pill in here, and then when you get this into the back of the mouth, you just pop it and it puts the pill right down their throat, and they can't bite you or spit it out or anything like that. So we're gonna give it a shot, see how well it works. Then we have Spectogard, which is for scours. I have this on hand for my piglets, but it also will work on the goats as well. So if the goats are scouring really bad and it's not coccidia, we will give them some of this. And this is another type of antibiotic. So it'll help stop scours, especially if it's been caused by E. coli. Again, usually this is what I have on hand for my pigs, but again, it works on the goats. So we also will keep this in the goat section. We have an electrolyte, which I can use on the mamas after they kid, or use it on any kids that are a little dumpy. We have a colostrum supplement. I don't usually like to use the powders, but I do have it on hand just in case I don't have any frozen colostrum to use. I have a tube feeding kit. It is the big syringe and the actual rubber tube that you can use to feed a kid that doesn't have a sucking reflex. We have Tums, which is again for mamas. Calcium helps with contractions. If the mama starts to stall out during labor or after she's had the kids, isn't expelling the afterbirth as quickly as she should, I will give some Tums. Most of my girls love them, so I don't really have to force them to take them. They eat them like candy, and it helps them get the contractions going, and we'll get all the afterbirth and stuff out. We've got iodine for dipping the kids' umbilical cords, isopropyl alcohol or rubbing alcohol for disinfecting and cleaning. So we clean the areas when we give injections, and we will also clean the ears and the tools we use. So for tattooing and banding and all that, they will all get disinfected. We have Ultra Boss back here, which is a pour-on I use for lice prevention, and in the summer it helps with ticks and flies. Cotton balls that are for the alcohol. We've got some new stock on hand. This is great for small wounds, and it does help get rid of mites without having to give them an injection. You just smear a little bit on, and the mites and stuff will clear up. It also helps regrow the hair afterwards, which is nice. Since I film most of the births and whatnot, I have a little stand for my phone. These are kid ID bands. They're basically like the wristbands that you get at festivals and stuff. They're just little paper bands. I decided to try some of these to tell the kids apart. So we have two different colors. We got blue and pink, and I can write all the kids' info and the dam's info on there and help tell them apart, especially if I have someone else helping me with the babies. I can just have them read the name on the ID bands. Then we have our trusty little bulb syringe. It is kind of gross looking. It's kind of stained with iodine now. It's been through many kidding seasons, but always use that, so I always have it on hand. Scissors, always need some scissors on hand. This is a thermometer. Again, it looks pretty gross. I think this thermometer is probably older than me at this point, but still works, and it's good to have on hand to check baby goats' temperatures. This here is a headlamp, so if I need to be hands-free and it's dark in the barn, I can use this. I've got a notepad so I can write down details about each kidding. So For the registered goats, I do have to know what order they were born in, so I can write that down in here so I can keep the tattoos straight. And then this here is a battery pack with a charger. Since I do film a lot of the births, I have the battery pack just to keep my phone charged up. Also good to keep your phone charged just in case you need to call the vet. So yeah, I have 2 of these battery packs. So this is my smaller pack. This one can charge my phone 2 or 3 times. I do have a larger battery pack that can charge mine about 4 or 5 times. So I usually will keep one of these in the kidding kit and make sure it is charged up so my phone is always good to go. Almost forgot to add this, but I also have clippers in my goat supplies. It kind of ties in with kidding because I do use the clippers to shave the doe's udders and like their back ends and everything before they kid to just make everything a little bit more clean. And when we do disbuddings, we will also use the clippers to shave the hair around the horn buds on the top of their heads. When you go to do blood draws and stuff for biosecurity testing, it can also come in handy to shave a little spot so you can find the vein easier. Yeah, not technically a necessity for everybody, but it is really handy to have. Got a couple last minute additions to the whole kidding / goat health kit. These aren't things that you necessarily have to have. You can get by without them. But I went ahead and got a digital scale so I can weigh the babies, which is helpful to make sure that they're gaining weight and that they are eating and everything. So I just got a cheap one off Amazon. Then we've got a little bottle of lubricating jelly. This is in case you have to go in and retrieve a kid or like reposition a kid. You can get by with like a kitchen oil, like a mineral oil or vegetable oil, but it is also pretty nice to have some of this on hand just so you can always keep it out with your kit. And it's a little bit more healthy for the does to use something like this. So got a bottle of that. This here is a supplement to help avoid milk fever, or if you do have milk fever, it'll help get them over that. So CMPK is calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, and this one has vitamin D3. Most of the time this is used with cows because a lot of the times the dairy cows are the ones having issues with milk fever, but it's also used in goats. So 1 to 2 ounces of this and they are good to go. The reason I have this on hand is because one of the new does I brought in did come down with milk fever on the last freshen at the previous farm. So I have this on hand just in case. She's a really heavy milker and she tends to come into her milk early from what the previous owner said. So just in case, I decided to have some of this on hand for her. Anyway, we'll go back to the regular stuff. Almost forgot. Also like to have some of these on hand for kidding season just in case I have some bottle babies. These are Pritchard Nipples. You can get them on Amazon. They're nice and soft, so the baby goats really like them. It is a little tricky to cut the tip to the right size, but they have this nice little air vent in them. So when the kids are drinking off of a bottle, it doesn't suck all the air out of the bottle, which can occasionally pull the nipples in and then you get milk everywhere. These also screw straight onto regular old soda bottles, which is nice. These are the ones that I have found work the best for me. You can use just regular old human baby bottles. When I used the regular human baby bottles, the goats would always suck all the air out of them and then the nipple would get sucked into the bottle and milk would go everywhere. So after I found these, I pretty much just switched to using those. They do tend to chew through them every year, so I usually keep a fresh box on hand. So I do keep some of the chewed up ones on hand. While I am cleaning these out, occasionally I will lose the little metal bead that sits in the vent here. And obviously that just goes right down the sink drain, so I never find it. But I keep the chewed up ones on hand because I can always steal the bead out of them. This is pretty much everything that I keep on hand and will use throughout the year. I'm sure there's a few things I'm probably not remembering, but for the most part, this is what I'm grabbing on my shelf every year. Some of these things are obviously stuck in the refrigerator, like the CD&T and the chlorophyll. Those both stay in the fridge. There's a few other things that are still on my shelf, but I don't use them all that often, so I didn't include them in this. But this is the basics. I needed to get it all sorted. Now that I get to put it all back. This is my little kidding box, so anything that needs to come out to the barn with me is going to go in here. The other stuff is going to go back on the shelf, but organized neatly so I know exactly where it is when I need it. So I know they're touchy subjects, but Would you guys want to see videos about the disbudding, the tattooing, and the banding, or would you guys prefer not to see that? No one likes to do it, but I know a lot of people kind of want to see the process so they can get an idea of what they would have to do if they wanted to do it themselves. I never thought I was going to have to do it, but now that I'm into the registered dairy goats, it is kind of a necessity. I can definitely do videos about the disbudding and the tattooing and the banding if you guys are interested in that. If I do videos about them, I'll probably just have to watch the comments to make sure everybody stays civil. Should probably get all this stuff sorted now, but figured I'd do a video while I was going through all of it. So we'll see you guys in the next one.